guys, so I'm here in our greenhouse. It's a pretty rainy day outside, so I figured it'd be a good time to get some stuff done in the greenhouse. So today we are redoing the beds of our greenhouse. We have, this is a 10 by 20 foot greenhouse, and we have two 20-foot beds. We prefer to do in-ground with a little bit of pots here. I've got some sage, some gooseberries, some marigolds in season, and my kind of sweet potato pot. Anyway, so we, for the in-ground beds, the way we prevent gophers is by using galvanized hardwire cloth. So this is 4 foot wide, and it comes in a 100-foot roll, galvanized hardwire cloth. It's incredibly good for keeping gophers out. I've shown you in a couple other videos the damage that gophers can do to your beds. I'm sure you've already seen it in your own gardens. But this is what we use whenever we plant in ground to prevent gophers. We've used all kinds of sonar and sound waves. We used gopher bombs, all kinds of stuff. And it kind of has varying success, but we have found 100% prevention with the gopher wire cloth, and so that's just what we use. So, so we've already started this bed here, and basically the problem is we had some old wire that needed to come up. It's getting pretty rusty, and we decided to use galvanized wire to give us just to protect the wire from getting rusty. So what I'm doing is we're pulling up the rest of this bed. This is where we had our, oh gosh, we've got some oats growing in here. Look at that, from our mulch. But we had our Swiss chard, our broccoli, and of course my lovely chickweed that we grow for the chickens. It just grows as a weed, but that's what I use for the chickens. And so we pull all this up. I'm going to throw it all in the fodder bucket, and then I'm going to dig up the rest of this row and show you guys how we put down the wire. So, do this pretty quick here. And whenever I'm pulling up fodder or anything else for beds, I always leave the roots. Some plants reproduce vegetatively, which means the roots will grow a new plant, and some don't. I figure it's worth the risk because I don't want to lose all this beautiful organic matter. Roots are amazing for building soil structure, and especially when you have kind of a closed bed like this where we're not getting a lot of extra leaves and additional inputs other than what I put in. I try to get organic matter anywhere I can, and so all that good root stuff is what I want to keep. So I'm just going to rip up all of this here. Goes in my fodder bucket, and we have black belly Barbados sheep here, and they eat everything. I'm seriously, they're almost like the pigs of the farm world for us, because they will eat the Swiss chard, they'll eat the grass, they eat the chickweed, they'll eat anything, almost anything. They eat my parsnip greens when other animals kind of frown their nose up at them. So those guys are awesome, and so all of this fodder stuff will go to them. Okay, so now this bed is pretty much cleared. I've got what I want out of here. All right, so all of this will make a nice little treat for the sheep and for the chickens and anybody else. So all that goes in here. And then I'm just gonna dig up this bed, finish up the last of this, and I'm gonna put the dirt on the other side. So the easiest way that I do this is just put all the dirt on one side, move the wire, put all the dirt on the other side, move the wire. Now these beds in here are not very deep. When I'm doing an in-ground bed, I don't bother digging down very far because for one, the soil here is not very good. We are pretty much on a granite mountain covered in a little bit of leaf litter. So the soil is not good. We have a lot of clay, we have a lot of sand. So I really don't see the point in trying to dig down too deep into this super hard soil when I can just use manures and my compost to make this nice, loose, soft soil. It's been a little bit drained of nutrients because we just finished growing our winter crops in this. But as I finish this bed, I'm going to layer in a little horse manure from a neighbor's horse and a lot of rabbit manure from our own rabbits, our meat rabbits, and then quite a bit of chicken manure and mulch as a good top dress. So there's a lot more that's going to go into this soil, along with compost and mulch, of course. But the first thing is to get the wire in. And so right here, guys, you can see what this wire does. So this is a gopher tunnel underneath my wire. And this wire, you can see it's kind of rusty and old, excuse me, but it's still doing its job, which is to keep that gopher that is tunneling around there from getting into the actual bed. And this is, of course, the gopher mound that he's dug up, trying to get in to eat those plants. So the wire really does a great job. And like I said, we don't put anything in the ground unless it has wire on top of it, or under it, sorry. All right. So now we're just going to throw this wire on top. And it's 4 feet wide. My beds are about 3 feet wide. So I've got a lot of overlap on both ends. And I cut this ahead of time so I know how much I needed. And just use my handy dandy staple gun. And all I'm going to do is just walk on it, smash it down, kind of get it in these corners here, and staple it. So you don't really need a lot of securing when you're putting this wire down, because the weight of the soil is going to hold it down for you. And if you have a decent kind of overlap on this side, nothing's going to get in under this log. So you always want to make sure the wire is bigger than the bed that you're making. And yeah, just make sure you have a good, nice, tall overhang. Also, because later on, you might want to, hang on here. Oh my goodness, this log is possessed. Hang on. There it goes. Later on, you might want to build up your beds with more logs on top or something. And that's totally doable. It just kind of lends itself to that. Anyway, so as you go down, you just keep stapling in. And you always want to be careful not to have your wire pressing against your cloth of your greenhouse, because any hard edges against this thin plastic of your greenhouse can cause snags and tears and make it really easy for it to start ripping. Exactly like this right here. So like right here, these edges would very easily put a hole in my, that one did, a little puncture. So, you always want to be careful. And you certainly don't want to leave any rough edges or sharp edges. So you want to curve those in, kind of fold them in, fold them down if you can. And then for this extra bit here, whenever I'm using hardwire cloth, I highly recommend getting a pair of wire snips. These are just heavy duty scissors. They do an amazing job of snipping this really easily, and you don't have to use an angle grinder. We used to use an angle grinder before, and it was very loud and very annoying having to go get it every time I wanted to cut some wire. But this is so much easier, and it just cuts really well. And surprisingly, they've held up because I use them all the time. Alright, so that is basically that. This bed is now protected from end to end with one full sheet of gopher wire. And there's no space for the gopher to get in. If you want more information about how to kind of merge or use two pieces, it's doable. You just have to overlap them quite a bit, and then you also have to take some wire and weave in between to make sure they kind of form one layer. But other than that, this is basically it. So I'm just going to spread out this dirt and keep working. So thanks for watching.